Today's Monday, March 17th. Hope everyone's doing well, enjoying the nice weather out there. We're halfway through March. Happy St. Patrick's Day if you celebrate that holiday as well. I see a lot of green today on the streets and a lot of the establishments today as we celebrate the St. Patrick's Day. All right, I'm going to share my screen now and we're going to get started with the lesson. Today's going to be a very important lesson. We have to deal with more like the vector capabilities of Photoshop. I hope you can see my screen okay. Yeah, I think it's pointing right now. Perfect. I checked my videos. They're all up to date right now, so I think that's good on that end. Trying to think about the other videos that we're gonna have. I think we're good. I'm uploading all the other ones there. Just to quickly recap where we left off last week. Yes, Angeli, go ahead. You have a question.
Hi, Professor.
Hello.
A few people are waiting to enter in the class.
Oh, and why can't they enter?
I don't know, maybe they are not getting permission or something.
No, I don't think we'll have an issue with this is an open session, so there's no real permission that needs to be granted. Um, the rest of you got in okay, right? Nobody needed to ask
Yeah,
permission. Yeah. Maybe tell them if you can communicate with them, Angeli, and thank you for bringing this up. Ask them to like maybe restart Microsoft Teams and maybe try to log in again.
okay.
All
Sure.
right.
Thank you.
And if it persists further, maybe contact IT. There's got to be some kind of an IT thing. We have a good IT team, by the way. Sometimes it's beyond my grasp of what I can do here with teams and the way we collaborate. We used to use another program called Pinepto with Blackboard. It was okay, but that was also, we had a lot of issues and connection troubles. So then we switched it to Teams, and I think Teams has been good for the most part. Um, so yeah, so if you're having any issues, please contact IT, and hopefully that'll help you guys out with that. But it's important we get everybody on board. So let me know.
Thank you. I'll let them know. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again. The good news is also the lessons being recorded. So if you do miss anything, watch the video. And of course, you can ask me any questions. I'll be more than happy to cover any specific topic of the lesson as well if I need to, review it and things like that. Okay. Can you guys see my screen still? I think you can see my
Yeah.
screen. Yes. Okay, perfect. So we're in module number 10. Sorry, module. I think I'm going to open this one's hidden. Okay. So module number 8 and 9, they're kind of joined together because one is a review, an overall review of some of the important topics we covered and some additional advanced Photoshop techniques. And the other one is the one we're going to cover today. So that's why it's called module 8 and 9. Last week we covered the book cover. All right. So that was already established for you. We did do a whole book cover from front to finish. Just to quickly, as I was gonna show you the lesson from last week. That's under this one here. These are the sources we used. I picked a popular book called Da Vinci Code. I don't think I implemented these graphics, but most of the other ones I did, as far as textures. This was the original book cover we were trying to redesign. A lot of designers, graphic designers do partake in designing book covers, and some of them redesign existing book covers that have been republished for different versions and different volumes. So it's a really exciting way to get creative with Photoshop, especially creating a book cover. Um, I handpicked these projects for you guys, like the movie poster, the book cover. some of the other assignments and projects you're doing. These are great portfolio pieces because there's no better way than to show your work than showing like real life projects like these. If you show them little exercises and things, it's not as professional. Until you get your professional portfolio in order, these are great segues to show your skill set of what you can do with the software. So far, I've been having some really good positive feedbacks from my students, and I think these projects will stay for a little longer until things really change. But for now, these are great. The next one coming up is going to be the website. So that's definitely in line with what's happening, as far as digital design and technology and things like that. So I'll introduce that another time when we talk about it. Focus on the book cover for now. I believe this is what we put together from last week. And like I said, if you watch the video, you can start to kind of see how I started this thing from scratch. The overall finish was 7 by 11. I think I used 8.5 by 11 format. And I also believe I showed you different um, pre-press deliveries. One was done in InDesign and the other one was done in Illustrator. So this was the Illustrator pre-press setup. You got to know how to set up the book for printing purposes. And I showed you both ways basically. Okay, so notice how we have the crop marks and the bleed marks, just to point out the importance of this. As I'm showing you Photoshop, I don't want you to, you know, go thinking that, hey, I can just use Photoshop and make a book cover. Professionally, you still have to set it up for the printer. So we did have to use InDesign or Illustrator to lay it out in such a way to put the bleed and to put the crop marks, the registration marks, and the bleed marks. That's the only way Photoshop can rise to the occasion in order to deliver whatever it is, a book cover, a movie poster, anything that gets printed, you have to set it up this way. And of course, making sure it's CMYK mode as well. All right, so watch last week's video. It covers all this stuff in a nutshell. And more importantly, we also covered the vector tools of Photoshop. As you can see here, there wasn't much vector design except this a trapezoid shape, okay, and this customized type on a path type of um, my words here, not type on a path, text wrap design on the image. There's no text wrap feature in Photoshop, as you do have that like an Illustrator and InDesign. What I had to do was mimic this shape and place the text in it to simulate the text wrap effect. So if you want to again accomplish that, watch last week's video. I cover all that stuff in great depth. Okay, so I think that's it. Unless you have any questions about the book cover, I'll be happy to explain some of the things I covered here. Again, vertical type. I think I gave you a challenge. If you guys can figure out how to do this in Illustrator or InDesign, let me know. Okay, because this was a very complex way. Apparently, Photoshop can do it no problem. But InDesign and I guess they may, unless they updated their type abilities, it's not that easy to actually achieve the vertical type effect like this. All right. So today, like I said, we're going to cover or further get into the vector stuff in Photoshop.
Sorry, Milo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi.
Oh, sorry. I don't know. It was a glitch or something. I was waiting for 10 minutes and it says like the instructor hasn't started the meeting. So I don't know what I missed. If you say something
Oh,
important or
nothing. I
you
was
were
just
just reviewing.
talking about the weather, actually. Okay.
Okay,
I was
okay.
talking
Thank
about
you.
a
I was
little
just
St.
concerned
Patrick's
about that.
Day. Yeah, I was just going over, Madsen, what we covered last week, where we left off with the book cover. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Just,
Yeah.
just for your information, some of us went to Indigo to make some research and inspiration visit.
Oh, beautiful. Very nice. Which location did you guys visit?
The one close to the school on Bay and yeah, it's Bay and Blue, right?
Oh, downtown. Yes, very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, downtown.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, you guys made a nice field trip out of this. I'm very happy to hear that. Thank you for sharing. And Angeli did mention to me that some of you couldn't get in. So you know what happened? I joined the chat a little earlier than normal. I kind of had it idle because I was doing some background things, and that maybe gave you guys the indication that I didn't wasn't even here yet. So regardless of what you see, when it's 4:15, just join the meeting or come in, and you should be able to join the class. So I hope everybody's here now, and if somebody's still missing, let me know. We can straighten this out. Okay, very good. And I went to Indigo myself not too long ago, and I told you again last week, I was really impressed with the amount of people that were there. People just love reading books. You know, everybody thought printing's gonna go out of style and it's dead and whatever. I don't. I beg to differ. You know, it's people still have to hold something in their hand, something tangible. We're never gonna let go of our human emotion or a human being, of physically being, grasping something, holding a nice, piece of art or a book or anything in that regard, and enjoying it. So, it's nice to hear that you guys kind of went through the journey of experiencing the book cover approach. And it's different than looking online. It's different than when you go to the store and you hold that thing in your hand, the books, and you can feel the textures, the papers, you can smell it sometimes too. It's quite remarkable. So yes, keep that up, and I always encourage you to get involved with these projects. The more, the better.
The
Alrighty.
smelling is like the amazing thing of books. And actually, Gurman was amazed that I was smelling the books.
See, Gourmet, there's nothing wrong with smelling the books. There's nothing like good old paper smell. As long as there's nice smell. It's the print smell that you can get on some publications. Yeah. And now the inks, let's talk seriously here. It's not as toxic as they used to be. Most inks that are used in the pre-press industry are environmentally friendly. That means they're biodegradable and that kind of stuff. So we are print's becoming a little more eco-friendly than it was before, if you look at the other chemicals that they used in the books and stuff. So if you smell them, you can kind of tell the difference if you smell like an older printer ink than something that's more newer, modern, up to date. All right, so enough with the print talk, but that's great that you guys did all that. That's very nice to hear. Let me just continue now with my screen share. What I'm going to ask you to do is go to module number 8 and 9. And if you can download this TTC advertisement for me, this is your next little assignment that I'm going to give you in class. So this is it right here. Just click on this one. You're going to download all the necessary files. There's another one called letter S trace. That's an Illustrator file. Reason why I have that there is because I don't think there's enough emphasis on the pen tool. I know you're using it with your Illustrator class. I'm sure Sheila's doing a great job, but for you to incorporate your tracing methods of the pen tool in Photoshop, there's a slight difference. So I'd like to go over it with you and to show you what the difference is and how important the pen tool is, not just in Illustrator, but in Photoshop as well. So go ahead and drag this one as well. Just download it. These image sources are for the overall review that we're going to do next week. So we're going to do that part, and I'm going to cover some of the more advanced image correction techniques and give you some time to catch up on some projects and stuff. If this was an in-person class, I would kind of say, okay, guys, go do your work. It's online, so I like to kind of invest as much time as we need to doing these lessons. And if we do finish early and I do have something to have you work on, I'll just give it to you. And that's when I'm going to introduce the next assignment as well. So we'll talk about that a little later, but keep this for after. Just maybe download these two for now. Speaking of assignments, I'll have to change the date for your clipping mask exercise. Um, it is due on the 10th. So this was off, of course, because it was from 2024. I'm going to have to change this to I'm going to do 24th for now. Okay. 24th because by next week, as I show you how to do this clipping mask exercise today, you can get this thing done for next week basically. And if you don't have it done next week, I'll give you some class time to get it done the same day next week. Okay, so that's why I put it on the 24th. So that'll be saved right now, and you can access that as well, as I'm going to make it visible for you. Okay, so I'm going to make this visible. So it's the clipping mask exercise. You have one more assignment due near the end of the semester. And that assignment is going to be the motion design for web. This is when things get really interesting, as you're going to be utilizing Photoshop to implement some advanced motion design techniques like GIF animations. We'll even make some videos in Photoshop, believe it or not. So all your designing and all your creative ideas that you're uh, you know putting together, we're gonna basically create them for web also. Okay, so that's gonna be, it's kind of segueing into the digital design in Photoshop as we get away from the print side. We're gonna do more like the online design, whether like the websites, the social media, as we did some of the social media in your composite assignments. We're gonna do more of that stuff coming up. Okay, so that's one more. I'm gonna talk about that next time. The clipping mask exercise, since I just mentioned it, I might as well just read it out to you. This is an exercise that you're going to do for me for next week. Okay. Today's lesson will prepare you how to do this. So for this exercise, you're to create multiple clipping masks in order to achieve the proper ad presentation. You're probably saying, "Oh no, not another ad." This ad is going to be very simple. You're gonna create a TTC ad. If you want to make a different advert, you can, since you already did your campaign advertising. You can use the TTC sources supplied in the lesson 8 files, or create your very own. Okay, have students make their own advertising as well. Good luck and have fun. So I want to see 2 different clipping masks in Photoshop. I want to see at least 5 layers integrated, and 2 of them can be clipping masks. So it can be total of 5, and 2 can be the clipping masks. The final size will be 1200 by 630 pixels. It'll be a different social media ad. It'll be a landscape, whereas the other one we did 1080 by 1080 for Instagram with your composite assignment. This will be an actual landscape Facebook ad. Resolution is 72 dots per inch. And you're going to provide a Photoshop file along with a JPEG for submission. That's the only way you're going to upload it. All right, so if I do Facebook ad sizes, so this is the one I'm alluding to here. So 1200 by 628, 1200 by 630. I just rounded off to 630 instead of 628. Okay, so let's go with that one for now. And that's due for next week. Okay, so once I finish this lesson, you should be able to execute that one. And like I said, there's one more after that. And we're approaching the end of the semester, believe it or not. Okay, so we still have a good, 4 or 5 weeks ahead of us. And after that, we're finished for the semester. We take a break and we come back for the summer semester. And that should be nice and relaxing for you guys because you're already seasoned the students. You know how the whole format goes in the school and everything else. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and start with this file folder here. I think before I begin, let's go ahead and get some warm up going with this letter S trace. I'm going to ask you to open this in Illustrator. Yes, I said Illustrator because that's the only way you can practice the pen tool. I don't know how much practice you've gotten in your other class, but I hope it's enough for you to understand how the pen tool works. If not, this is a great way to practice more. And I can't tell you how important this technique is for you to master. And what a better way than to trace the letter S. Let me just get a feel of everyone, how they feel about this pen tool. I hope you know what I'm saying when I talk about the pen tool, right? This is the pen tool. I want you to raise your hand if you feel comfortable that you can do this letter S in under 5 minutes. And when I say you can do it like very, very good job of that. So 5 minutes or less, if you can do the letter S in Illustrator, I want to see a raise of hands right about now. Okay, that's very good. So I think I got like half of you, almost maybe more than half. Okay, and there's half of you that don't feel comfortable with the pen tool. Now this is a normal outcome that I get. Every time I ask this question, I get the same results. It's usually half and half, it's split. So don't feel bad if you didn't raise your hand. This is why you have to practice this pen tool. Let me tell you a story about me with this tool. I never liked this tool. Maybe I wasn't taught properly, but I really didn't like how it was handling itself. I avoided it at all costs until I realized later that, hey, if you want to really, do a lot of more professional and advanced work with these programs, you have to learn the pen tool. So there was no other way but for me to force myself and to learn this tool. Since I did that, it took me like a good month, maybe two, to really master this tool. I can't look back ever since because there's not a project that goes by that sometimes I don't use this tool. I won't tell you I use it all the time, but whenever the opportunity arises, this tool is the most I guess the best tool or the most unilateral tool across all applications because you can use it in Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. I remember even Flash had this tool. Okay, so let's just quickly do a recap here. I'm gonna turn off the stroke, sorry, the fill. Just have a black stroke with no fill. Because if you have a white fill and you start using this is a traced element here. If I show you the layers here, it's all set up for you. This is a template. This is the tracing layer. Okay, that's how you would trace something in Illustrator. I don't want to convert this to an Illustrator class, but quickly I'm gonna um, relay the information, compare the two tools, because this is where you're supposed to learn it, and Photoshop is how we're gonna incorporate it. Okay, so layer two is how you trace. So if I start doing it this way, I start with a click, and then I click and drag the mouse, right? What happens is this white fill will take over my actual curve, okay? And what that will do is actually prevent me to see what I'm tracing. So my number one rule of thumb is to take out the fill and just have an outline as you're drawing. So that means this white fill is set to none, and all you have is the black stroke. Okay, so you can see right through it, right? So do that first, set it up from the beginning, and then make this 2 points so it's a little thicker. You can see the line a little thicker, right? And try not to have too many points, and also don't have too few points, because the fewer the points, the harder it is for you to execute the curves. And the more points you add, the more jaggedy and bumpy the curve will look. So the trick is to have just enough amount of points on this tracing design. So let's quickly go ahead and invest 5 minutes doing this, as I asked some of you to do that. And then I want to see it. I want you to send me a JPEG, maybe a screen capture, and I want to see how everybody did with this tracing result. Okay, so let's start here at the corner. We click once. Instead of going all the way around, I'm going to stop here in the middle. Now, and this again comes with experience. You don't want to go too far, because if you go too far, you won't be able to cover the curve and you're going to get something like that happening. If you go too close, you're going to be doing this, and then it won't look as smooth because you have way too many points, right? You can see how it's getting a little rough. So the trick is to have just enough distance between each anchor point. So I would just judge it by the 180 rule. This is like 180, this is 90 degrees. So I would go maybe up here somewhere and just click and drag the mouse to hold it like that. Okay, so we'll do that one first. Another rule of thumb is, and this works in Photoshop and Illustrator, if you hold the Option key, you can minimize the next approach. What you don't want to do is do this, okay? Because then it'll interfere with the smoothness of the curve. You want to keep this at, look, 90, 180 degrees. All you want to control is the length, because the longer this is, the longer the curve you can conquer. The shorter it is, the more precise and smaller the curve it'll be, okay? So that's what you want to do when you do this kind of stuff. So I'm going to make it a little shorter here. All right, and we're going to go ahead and do this. And then even afterwards, you can hold Option and you can go ahead and fix the curves as you go along, okay? So I kind of mess this up already here. All right, and you can always fix it later using the white or the direct selection tool. Okay, so you don't have to get too finicky with this. I just want you to get comfortable again because we're going to do this in Photoshop after using the streetcar. Okay, so I just want to get you a quick warm up, and I want to see your level of tracing. So I'm going to go ahead and do click and drag the mouse. Again, if you click Option, you can control the length of the next anchor point, which is easier to control these curves. And if this happens to you, just simply go hold the space bar and you can fix this afterwards. Okay. Here we go again. I should have zoomed out a little bit. Option drag, keep it perpendicular to the previous one. And simply just go, maybe I'm gonna make this a little less. Simply do one of those. And then to cut the anchor point, in Illustrator, all you have to do is just click. In Photoshop, you can't do that. This is the big thing I'm trying to explain to you. In Photoshop, you have to hold Option to cut the anchor point. I don't know why they still haven't made it congruent in both programs, but one program like Photoshop, you have to press Option. Illustrator, you just click, and you just go click and cut to get the points across. Now I'm gonna do a quick fixer upper with the direct selection tool. You can definitely click on these anchor points and you can smoothen these curves as you go along here. Like I said, this doesn't have to be perfect, but if you have to kind of adjust this and fix it, you can certainly do so very quickly using these methods here in Photoshop. Now, how many points do I have? Like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I kind of went a little too aggressive with this. I would expect you to have maybe 12, okay? Maybe not more than that. So 12 or so points should be nice and easy for you to get this thing done. And just simply, holding Option again will give you that much control over these points. And as long as you do a nice job here, you're good to go. Just quickly click on this one here. Alrighty. Now this is escaping me a little bit, this one here. No worries. Gonna move this one up, move this one down. Okay, like I said, it doesn't have to be too perfect. Just do your best to show me how much command and control you have over the pen tool. And I did get this little aggressive start here, like I said. Like, honestly, I would like to see myself, if I was to do this again, I would do 12 points instead of 10 points. So let me switch this quickly, make the fill a stroke of fill. And you can see here, not bad, but it's not perfect. I can definitely improve doing this. I would give myself maybe an 8.5 out of 10 on this one. Okay. All right. So that's how I would definitely improve this overall. I want to see your level. So here's what I want you to do. Um, switch this up, make the stroke thicker like that, like 7 points or 8 points, right? Uh, and then do a screen capture, Command Shift 4, or you can even do save it as a JPEG just so I can see it quickly. So export as from Illustrator, you can export it as a PNG or a JPEG onto the desktop. Go ahead and do that. RGB color mode, you don't need to do CMYK. And the obvious thing is this bump over here. You can see how I messed that up. There's a few ones here and there, but having this thick enough, you can see these little hiccups along the way. And again, you don't have to get too obsessive with this, just enough to fix it. Okay. All right. If that doesn't work, you can do Command-Shift-4 and do a screen capture and send me one of these. Once you screen capture on the Windows, I think it's Windows Shift S. You can do Command-Shift-4. You can then go ahead and send me those. So when I say send me those, what I meant was for you to go upload it on here. I'm going to create a design discussion, okay? And that's going to go in today's class. So if you go under module 8.9 overall review, okay, I'm going to go ahead and make something right now. So I'm going to go create a discussion group, okay? And this will be called tracing exercise, letter S. Okay? This is where you will upload your tracing S attempts.
Just the screenshot is fine, right?
Sure, yeah, if it's easier. Yeah. So then what I'm gonna do here is do just do attachments. And as you can see, I can attach my JPEG or I can do my screenshot. So I can do my screenshot, okay, very quickly. And I'm gonna go ahead and hit the view and download, save, just like we did this, I think, in the beginning of the semester. So go ahead and upload your letter S exercises, and yeah, let me see how good you are with this, because then that tells me how much more I can explain to you in Photoshop how this works. I got to do it either way, but let me see your letter S uploaded, and then we'll move on to the next part. I'm going to exit this screen. I'll leave this up to you, and then we'll continue with the next segment. So note what we did here. I used 10 points, okay? Um, I also used Option to correct some of my curves, okay? I used the Option key. I also used the direct selection tool to just tweak it afterwards. So Option was the main fixer-upper, I guess, to clean all my anchor points and my leading handles going forward. Okay, so now I'm going to take it over to Photoshop and show you the main difference of doing this and how important it is to learn this technique for not just for Illustrator, but for Photoshop and for InDesign too. Okay, so this is what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to put this one off for now. I'm going to save it as, just do a save over the existing one as an Illustrator file. The thing is, I can't see, I don't want to open Illustrator. I just want you to do a quick screen capture on the discussion I made for you just now. So here, just make a quick screen capture. I don't see anybody yet. So when you guys get a chance, upload your letter S. Um, like I said, I'll give you 5 minutes to do it. Okay, so I'll keep talking until I see some people load up some stuff here, and then we'll take it from there. All right, so go ahead and do that. And now I'm going to go over to the other part that I'm going to talk about. So there's another version of my letter S. So, now, mind you, I did rush this. So if I did take maybe 10 minutes doing that and really, really finesse my points, I'm sure I can even do a better job than this. But like I said, I don't want to invest too much time. We're not competing here who can do a better tracing job. As long as you do something similar, it's not like way off, then I know you got a good command of the pen tool. These little things happen, okay? If you have that, don't worry. Just show me that you can do at least something similar to this word, okay? Because then in Photoshop, we can see how it works differently than Illustrator, okay? All right, so
Where we
go
are
ahead.
submitting again?
Also, Matson, it's right here under, if you click on the,
I think, well, I don't know
oh,
if it's
no,
just me, but I
sorry.
cannot see
You,
your screen.
it's my bad. It wasn't visible. Now it's visible. Tracing exercise letter S is visible now. So go ahead and upload it there, please. So if you go to module 8 and 9, the first thing is that tracing letter S. I'm going to put this underneath here so you can see it. And the next thing we'll do is look at the TTC advertisements.
Right now, I see everything black on your screen, just for you to know, but
Oh, you
let
can't see
me
my
can
screen
see.
at all? Oh, okay, maybe.
Now, yes.
You know what it is? When I switch windows, I gotta slow it down a bit. Is it black now? Let me stop and because I
Yeah,
can
it's
see
black.
black too. Yeah. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And when did it go black? Just recently or for a while now?
When you were showing us what you were doing on Blackboard, I think it was black.
Okay, but not tracing, right?
No, we saw your tracing.
How about now? You can see me now, right? The screen. So
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
if you go to the Blackboard, and that's the part I believe, and thank you for letting me know, Matson, you can go ahead on Blackboard and access the tracing exercise. Gotta fix the spelling on that one here. Exercise. There we go. Tracing exercise letter S. Very nice. All right. See, we got Hector. We got Gretel. Nicely done. Beautiful. See, you guys are naturals with this stuff. So Sheila did the good job explaining to you guys the pen tool. Very nice. And you guys are doing logos and stuff? What kind of projects are you doing in Illustrator? Or are you just drawing some other things? All right. So I'll leave this to you. Okay.
We
So
did
the
a
rest of you,
portrait, we did an icon, and we are
this
working on a popcan right now with logos and so.
nice. Good job. Very nice. All right. So let's go move over to Photoshop now. If you can do this like this in the letter S, that's an ultimate challenge. And for those of you that have a little that are having a little hard time adjusting to the pen tool, just practice the letter S I'm giving you. That might even give you a different angle on it. Not to mention of the different tracing pen tool exercises. There's even a game online. One student pointed out there's like a website I think you can go to and I think it's still there. You can still see um, it'll teach you step by step how to do this. So there's a lot of resources out there for you guys to do this with. Okay, so go ahead and use the website. Maybe watch these tutorials even. Lots of different things
In
you
this
can
video, I'm going to show you how to trace over images, and it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, so he's doing like the cat and all these different ones, right? All right, so let's go ahead and minimize this here. I'm gonna open Photoshop now. Okay, open the files in there. Just give me a moment. My windows are getting a little mixed up here. Keep that open this way. My Teams is here. My YouTube is there. This one is here. Perfect. All right, and this is going to be my Photoshop window. Excellent. Right. whole thing here. If you open the folder, it asks you to download this other folder, actually, if you haven't had a chance. See here. The TTC advertisement. So just download that little link there. It'll download the folder. So go ahead and put that right on your desktop. Oh, I already have it downloaded, so that's even better. So extract the folder, and you will see another folder that extracts from the zip package, and you'll see various, they're called TTC files. And the reason why I handpicked these files is because when you talk about the pen tool and selections in Photoshop, a lot of professionals love to use it for geometrical shapes. As you know, the selection methods we covered earlier are more based on organic type of natural selections, as you do hair, people, animals, plants, objects. But when it comes to things like this, right, like streetcars, automobiles, machinery, anything that's geographical, wow, anything that's more like architectural, even buildings and structures, right, objects type of oriented, okay, industrial, that's the word I was looking for. There's more like a mechanical way of getting this perfectly selected. And what better way than to use the pen tool? This will be very hard even for AI to interpret what is the streetcar, what's this background color. So even though you can try, the quick selection tools, the magic wands, it's not going to be easy to get these things extracted. Thanks to the pen tool, is how you'll be able to execute these more advanced selections. And not just that, we're going to incorporate the clipping mask to isolate the background and see what kind of role the clipping mask will play for exporting the files to other programs like InDesign. And you can see how a crucial role Photoshop plays with the pen tool for these other applications. Okay, so this is an old vintage streetcar in Toronto. This is the Dundas streetcar. Yes, believe it or not, that's how old the streetcars are. This is not in Toronto. It's in a different part of the world. I don't know which part of the world this is. I can't remember. Harris Canal. And then this is more of a modern streetcar that we have right now. And this is more like a classic streetcar, 90s, 80s, and 90s, I guess. You can see this one, 2000 and forward, that one was made, maybe 2010 or so. Okay, so we're going to kind of bring back some history with the streetcars and do like a layout or an ad promoting the TTC services. And the TTC obviously has been around for decades now, maybe even more than that. And it's the icon of the Toronto transit system in the city of Toronto. So it's the lifeline or the bloodline of commuting in the city. Okay, so we're going to incorporate the logo, some of these streetcars, and there's an old logo as well. 60 years. That's how long the TTC subway has been around. Okay, so we're going to incorporate some vintage design and some more modern design to get this done. So let's go ahead and approach this as the assignment is given to you in the exercises here. So the clipping mask exercise, this is what we're going to do right now. And you'll have till next week to get it done and hand this in. So we're going to go with 1200 by 630 pixels. It's a Facebook landscape ad. So we're going to go ahead and start with that. We're going to make sure we make it also 72 dots per inch. And then we're going to incorporate these other techniques that I'm asking you to do. And then you hand this in as your exercise or in-class assignment, right? So now that we have all this information and this is under your class exercises or assignments, you can also access it from your gradebook or calendar. let's go ahead and make this happen in Photoshop. So we're going to go to Photoshop here, create a new file. We're going to start with web. Because from now on, we're going to, gear towards the online community. So we're not going to be, the exception of the book cover, of course, that's a printed project. But if we're creating a social media ad, we're going to go to web, right? I'm going to go with, you know, so 1200 by 630. Okay, so we're going to go 1200 by 630. So we're going to readjust the default setting on a web page. A web page most common is, this one here, 1366 by 768. We got 1920, 1080, like large format, medium format, different types of web layouts you can create. Okay. So this one here will be 630. So 1200 by 630. Okay. And if you're not sure again, simply go back, look at your criteria here, and you can match it across the stage. Should we make an artboard of this? Probably it's easier if we don't, because I like to use artboards when you have multiple pages. And yes, Photoshop can create multiple artboards. We're definitely going to explore that feature in the upcoming assignments. For now, just the artboard is going to be a distraction because it's going to, give you different options of selections. So we're just going to shut it off for now just to keep it simple, because there's no point having artboards if you're not going to have more than one, right? Again, I'm going to reference Illustrator. InDesign, you have multiple pages. That's for publication use. In Photoshop, artboards wasn't even an option until I think 10 years ago or so. They added on as well. Okay, so artboards was a big thing. Believe it or not, even Illustrator didn't have artboards in the beginning. So we just had documents, and we had to use a multiple page PDF amalgamation to put the documents together. So thank God for artboards. We can do multiple pages now in all programs, all across the board. Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign. All right, so no artboards for this case. 1200, 630, 72 dots per inch, RGB color mode with a white background. Hit the create button, and there it is. There's the advert. So if I zoom in, this is how it's going to look. We're going to start off with this, but for us to extract the other elements in here, we're going to either open one of the images separately or place one of the images in here as well. You can do it either way, right? Perhaps I'm going to open the image first. So I'm going to open a different file right now. So if I go right to the desktop, my TTC files folder, I'm going to open up this old vintage streetcar of the city. Now, this is a separate image. You see, it's over here. So we have two ways to do this. We can use the pen tool to trace this and extract it as a selection and paste it into our advertising. Or we can just place the image in here and use a clipping mask to isolate the background. I want to show you both methods because they're equally effective. So I'm just going to zoom into this one and do this one first. As you can see, the methods that you like, for example, let's try the object selection tool, right? It's pretty good, but if you notice the edges, it's not as smooth. You see how the edges look really rough? And that's because of the consequence of the quality of the picture and things like that. So you can't really rely on these methods too much. I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty impressed the fact that it can even pick this up. Usually it can't. Even if you try using these quick selection tools, see, it goes overboard and grabs other items that interfere with this image. It's very faded and hard to kind of see on the target areas that you want. So there's no better way than you being the judge of how this will look like by using the pen tool. So let's go ahead. The pen tool is located right over here. in Photoshop. These are like your vector tools. So you do have your type tool, of course, as we did it last week with the book cover. These are your selection tools. See the path selection tool, direct selection tool. You can edit your anchor points afterwards. Here you have the objects. You can create rectangles, elliptical shapes, triangles, polygons, line tool, and custom shape tool. Believe it or not, you can customize different shapes. Of course, you have to open up a library, okay? And then you can draw any vector shapes in Photoshop as well. Just to quickly show you, I'm going to go to, where's the shapes here? Oh, here we go. So these are your shapes. Flowers, wild animals, leaf trees, boats, flowers. Okay, so these are repetitive, some of them. But we're going to go with the submarine. If I click and drag the mouse, I just did a vector file in here using a submarine. So you can even upload, import some of these vector custom shapes that you can create right into Photoshop. Or like I said, I like using it Illustrator, copy and paste it as a vector object in here. That works as well.
Sorry to interrupt, Milo. It's just Shiharu is not on the meeting. Something, I think, yeah, she's out, but now she's trying to get inside again. And she said that Microsoft Teams is asking for permission to get in the meeting.
Yeah, but I'm not getting any notification for her to come in. Usually it'll make a prompt for me to say yes or no. I'm not getting anything from my end. Let me just quickly stop sharing my screen. I don't see anything. Yeah, I don't see anything. Tell her to maybe try it again, because none of you needed permission to come into this room. So it should be like that for everybody, including her. Unless, is she joining with her Gmail address or something like that? It's very important that when you guys come to these things, Teams will only recognize you if you're a Humber student. If you log in with your Hotmail or Gmail or Yahoo address, I don't think you can even join the meeting. So you have to make sure you log in with your Humber email or your Humber account. So can you tell her that, please?
Yeah, we are telling her that.
Because I know sometimes it's convenient. You're perhaps maybe not in front of your computer, you're on your phone and you want to join the meeting. But your phone, guess what? Your phone is not hooked up to your school account. Your phone is hooked up to your Gmail account or your other personal account. That's why the application will kind of not comply or understand exactly your username, and that's why maybe she's not allowed. She's getting all these complications. I'm saying this because same might happen to you. So make sure you use your Humber email, use your computer, okay? Because the phone is very limited when it comes to these things, unless you log in with your Humber credentials with your phone. Okay, so let's keep going and hopefully she can join us. If not, she can watch the recording after. Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, well, thanks for letting me know. So we're back here. We exploited all the methods that kind of we thought it might work, we thought it won't. Look, even the magic wand, I mean, what are you gonna do? Keep clicking shift, and getting this like that. It's never gonna work perfect using the traditional selection methods. So what is going to work is using the pen tool. Like I said earlier, the pen tool is how we're gonna trace this streetcar. And I gave you the
Can you share
preliminary.
your screen again?
Oh, you can't see my screen now.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. There we go. All right, can you see my screen now? So I was just explaining that in order to get the streetcar, we tried many methods, traditional selection methods that won't work in this case. I mean, they will, but they won't give us the ultimate results. So when it comes to things like this, buildings, vehicles, any geometrical shapes, you should consider using the pen tool. So it's a professional's choice. And here we are now. We're, halfway, if not more, into the course of Photoshop. It's time to see the power of the pen tool, how it works. So we're going to first select not shape, but path. So this is a different way you can select the pen tool from Photoshop. So make sure you're in path. If you select shape, basically, it's going to draw a shape that looks like the pen tool. And yes, you can't click on the anchor point. So as I mentioned earlier, you got to hold Option to cut, okay? But if I'm doing this, look, I'm drawing a shape and I'm covering it with this default black fill, okay? And it's hard to see right through it because the fill is disrupting my details of what I'm trying to draw. So my word of advice to you is don't do shape rather than do path. And the advantage of path is, I know we've covered all the Photoshop palettes here. We did layers, a lot of layer stuff. We did alpha channels a little bit with the selections of those images we looked at. The channels is something we can look at later on as well with more advanced selections that we saved and loaded. But paths is what we're after today. So layers we know, channels is more like selections that are saved. And you don't want to mess around with these channels unless you're color correcting, right? And in this case, there's a lot of other adjustment color correction measures that we're going to use. But paths is what you should be aware of doing this next step. So with paths, we're going to designate a path. We're going to save the path. We're going to export it as a clipping path, okay, or a clipping mask. And the clipping path will be then saved as part of the file, and that file will be then sent to another program like InDesign. I can't show you like a video editing software because they do that for green screen, animation, video editing. They can actually take out a background on a video, which is way more advanced, but the similar techniques apply. The only difference is I'm using a still image and I'm using Photoshop. Okay, so paths is something I'm going to point out. So let's just stick with layers for now, and we're going to switch over to paths in a bit. So here's the pen tool again. Make sure this is set to path. Remember, paths, paths. Okay, just keep that in your minds. And we're going to start over here. Click and drag the mouse like that. I'm going to go ahead and close this down. And as you saw earlier, there's no way to cut this except if I option click to redirect the next point, you could actually go ahead and do that. You can then use the arrow keys to perfect the anchor points, and you can then hold option drag again to send it to the next direction, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and do this. You see, like there's no way even AI or Photoshop can differentiate these two colors, see? So that's why it's very, very important that your human eye recognizes this better than Photoshop's algorithms of what's, a streetcar, what's not part of the streetcar. I'm doing a lot of clicking here. Okay, you can go a lot of clicking. I'm going to ignore the shadow part here. I'm going to go right across. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to adhere to this curve. I'm going to basically do this. I'm going to do a little bit of that. Okay, now I'm going to cut this anchor point. So I'm going to option redirect it. You see that? Go over here. So option redirect. I should have grabbed the wheels though, but that's okay. I'm just going to keep going here. We're just having some fun here with this exercise. I'm going to go over here. It's a shadowy area, so I can't really see anything. I'm just going to trust my instincts. Right. So like I said, you can't really do this perfectly with these other selection methods that I've taught you in the past. The only way to do this is with something way more precise like the pen tool. Remember, even the clone tool, you had to use the actual original clone tool to clone out certain parts because it's hard to differentiate sometimes pixels or colors from other images. All right, so not to get too finicky with this, but I'm going to try to do a decent job. I'm going to ignore some of these polls and details. I'm going to go right up here and simply do this, keeping my anchor point in the right direction. I'm going to go all the way here like that. Option click to cut. I'm going to grab this round piece. Okay. Option click. So option is like my best friend in Photoshop. I'm going to go over here, do one of those. Option, redirect. So option, click and drag. Grab this little area here as well. Option, redirect. And then finally, I'm going to hit this anchor point. I see the little 0 show up. That's because I'm closing the path. If you don't close the path, you'll have a broken path. You won't have like an object. So an open path is an open path. A closed path is considered an object. So this now becomes an object, and I can then incorporate this path here as part of my selection and save it as part of my file. So you see here I have the paths now. By default, Photoshop made what's called a work path. Now, for you to conclude this work path and to have it embedded in the file for other future uses of it, what you want to do is you can double click to save the path. Another way to do it is you can click over here and save the path this way. Whichever way you prefer, you can do it either way, double click or just save the path from the pop-up menu and then give it bold streetcar path. Okay, so I gave it something, a very unique name so we can identify it. And lo and behold, that name now is embedded inside Photoshop in the paths menu. So we can then utilize this path for anything that we like to use it for. Okay, just to show you something further, I'm going to save this as a Photoshop file just to show you Photoshop. Even TIFF works, by the way. TIFF is the older format we used to use for clipping paths and things like that. I forgot to do one thing, however. This is another thing, another step that you want to. I mean, in the modern age right now, you might not have to do this next step. Once you save the path, it's there. But to really, really make sure, you have to make it what's called a clipping path. A clipping path, okay, will solidify the path and embed it as such. So other programs can recognize it, like InDesign and stuff. Again, I think it'll work either way, but just to test my theory, I'm going to make it so first you save the path, and then you make it a clipping path. And then you select the path, which is the old streetcar path that we saved. Just click OK. And now it kind of boldens itself. It's like giving it a first name and a last name. You have to do it twice. You save the path, and you make it a clipping path. Okay. So that's how you can really make sure this stuff works. And then if you save it as a Photoshop document, watch this now. So Photoshop document, it'll be a PSD file. Originally, it was a PNG file. It was an image off the internet. We're going to save this as a Photoshop document. All right. So what happens now is if you open up a program like InDesign, let's create a new document. Pretend we're making an ad or a layout or something in here. We're going to go to print. We're going to create a 8.5 by 11 document. Landscape. Okay, so it's like a landscape file. All right, so there it is. So let's say we're incorporating the streetcar in InDesign right now. I'm going to go File, Place. We're placing a normal image like we normally do in InDesign. I'm sure you've done this before in Roberto's class. I'm going to go ahead and access my TTC image, my desktop here, TTC files. And there's my vintage streetcar PSD file. Okay. I'm going to go show options so I can show you that you can select the clipping path as a transparent element. So let's go ahead and hit open. And if you notice right away, because we made it such a proper, procedure, we made it a clipping mask, okay, of the clipping path or sorry, the path that we saved will make it a clipping mask. And right now, if you just click OK and you draw the streetcar, it'll automatically make it a transparent background. Okay. And then you can perhaps, do whatever you want to do with it. Right. Just to kind of, this will really help you guys with your InDesign class as well, in case you're doing, and I'm sure sometimes you have to bring images and typography. When you put a text box, right? And I'll fill it with placeholder text, right? And I'll bring the streetcar in the front. So I'm going to right click, arrange, bring to front, right? And then I'm going to apply text wrap on this. Under text wrap, there's an image here. You can open up the text wrap file in a palette in InDesign. You want to go with this option here. So it wraps around object shape. It'll automatically pick up the path because you saved it as a clipping path. And then just make sure I'm using my right terminology here. Right. So so clipping path. So once you make the proper clipping path from the normal path, sometimes I call it clipping mask. I just want to make sure it's a clipping path, not a mask. It's similar though, clipping mask and clipping path. The difference is the clipping path is saved. So when you bring it into InDesign, it's embedded with the actual format. Of course, now I lost InDesign. All right. So what happens is when you bring this in, okay, with the clipping path, it knows that the object's transparent. You select this third option here. You simply go up, up, and up to add more, padding around the path and the content around the path. So then you have something looks like this, right? And of course, if you make this 2 columns, then you have like an article of some kind that goes along with the design. Okay. And yes, I can make this a lot smaller and bring it in here, and it'll work like this as well. I can make it smaller here. Okay. So that's how you can do some really, really cool things now that you know InDesign, and you're obviously doing Photoshop. With Illustrator, you might have to, I guess for objects and vector files, you can do something similar. But this is strictly for images that go into InDesign, and you want to apply clipping paths. Okay, so clipping path, bring it in as a Photoshop file or a TIFF, and that's going to work just like that. Okay, so that was the whole point of learning how to do this. So it'll definitely help you with some of the other programs, okay, design applications. Yes, Matson, go ahead.
That's super cool. I just have a question. You did it at once and just save it, but is there a way that we can edit the path now, like after doing it?
You know what? You're right. I was just when you thought that, I said to myself, why the heck didn't you save the file? So, to be honest with you, I'll do it really quickly one more time. There's the landscape. I will save it. Okay, here we go. I'm going to turn off facing pages. I'm just going to keep it very simple. Okay, I'm going to go file. So again, this is from Photoshop.
Oh, but no, not the InDesign.
Which one?
I'm talking about the Photoshop one. Because maybe, I don't know, I am not that perfect with the pen tool. So if I want to edit some of the points or whatever, can I do that before
Yes, you can.
saving the
You can
file?
do it in InDesign as well. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Or I think it's better to do it in Photoshop since that's where you made it, and then you can just bring it back and forth. Okay. So I would suggest you invest the time to do it good to begin with in Photoshop, and then you just bring it in, right? Let me just quickly show you here. Place PSD file. object, clipping path, convert clipping path to frame. I mean, you can also do that part. And then you can do this kind of stuff as well. See that? I am editing the paths in here. And I'm glad you asked me that, Madsen, because I didn't want to make this too complicated, but some of you might want to edit your paths in here. So what you might want to do is, let me just quickly undo this part here. So here's the streetcar. Here's the text. Let's put some text really quickly here. Type, fill with placeholder text. Send it to the back. Give it 2 columns. This one has a little more character. And whatever is in the front, make sure you apply this text wrap here that's around the object shape. And you want to increase that to maybe 1 or 2 increments so it does its text wrap ability. And to edit the actual path, let me save this time. I'll do a copy just in case. Call it the streetcar example, okay, of a clipping path. All right. So what happens is here now, let's say you want to edit this path. Let's say you didn't do a fantastic of a job and stuff. To edit the path, I mean, you could double click and use the direct selection tool. Okay, so this kind of works this way. You can also control it that way. You have 2 paths. Remember, I made an offset for the path, and you have this one. So you can control both. So you don't necessarily have to do what I did earlier as a demonstration to do object, clipping path, convert clipping path to frame. You don't have to do that. You used to. I remember the old version. I think you had to. I think you had to do this and then it would work. But now it works without these extra steps. You just have to do your stuff in Photoshop and making sure Photoshop does the clipping path properly to bring it in here. And to edit this, you have to use remember the direct selection tool, just like Illustrator, the white arrow tool. And you got to zoom in very carefully, click on your anchor point. And you can kind of do a lot of editing here too. I think it's a lot easier though if you don't do it in here, you just do it in Photoshop to begin with. Okay. I'm just gonna save this quickly here. I would do it here. As soon as you save it here, you just simply do a save or save as. It'll automatically update in InDesign. But once you do something in Photoshop, it's gonna update it directly into InDesign because it's a linked file. Yes, go ahead, Madsen. Oh, you had your hand up from before?
Oh, I think yes, but but can you show it how we can do that on Photoshop? I'm trying to edit my file because there were some lines that went
Sure,
really
yeah, no problem.
bad.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is the lesson today, so we want to make sure everybody understands it. So did you draw this path in Photoshop?
Yeah, I have the pad.
Perfect. So the path's done. Did you go to the paths palette here? And did you
Yes, I
double
have
click?
it.
Did you save the
Mhm.
path? You double
Yes.
click, you save the path. And then did you go up here and make it a clipping path?
I think that's missing.
And again, I think it works either way, but to solidify the path's existence, I think we have to do what's called a clipping path. It's like giving it we're claiming it to be a clipping path, and then InDesign will understand it better without any problems. So once you save the path, okay, once you save the path, I don't have save path anymore because I already saved my path. You double click, save the path, make it a clipping path. And the only way the path travels with the file is if you save it as a Photoshop document or a TIFF. A TIFF works as well. It's an old tagged image file format that we used in the past. It really saves good. Like, see, look, the pixel order, the image compression has a lot of options for your stuff. Even has the path ability, which doesn't really preview it, but it's there. So if you bring in let's say you bring in the TIFF file. There's the TIFF file here, right? You open it up and it works just the same. And of course, then you go your text wrap, you enable the one that's object or shape, which recognizes, look, same as clipping. You see that? Clipping, the clipping path, it recognizes it right away and it does that. And you just have to just increase the amount to make it so. Okay. That's how you can do the clipping mask around it. Okay. I think we're good for now. We can just hide frame edges like that. Okay, I already saved this, so I won't save it again. So very important piece of collaboration between Photoshop, InDesign, even other programs. I think even Illustrator. You can save this as an Illustrator file. It'll bring it in there as well. Okay. I know some of you like to put images into Illustrator. So if I like go to Illustrator right now and say, hey, place an image, escape wise. See, Photoshop communicates with all applications. It's the mother of all, right? So everything you prepare in Photoshop, as far as images are concerned, you have to prepare them in such a way that, other programs can understand the whole, reason of the way it's going to be administered. So in this case, if you have transparencies or special effects or alpha channels, it'll do just that. So if I do, place, let's go to my TTC files here. There's the Photoshop file. Okay. Show import options just in case. I don't think why it's using this way. Let me just quickly see if Illustrator understands the path. And yes, it does. Okay. So Illustrator definitely understands the path. The preview didn't look like it did understand the path, but even Illustrator is able to understand. Of course, it should, the clipping path. And then if you double click, triple click, see, now you can edit the path. Let's say I offset it. Now as I offset the path, that's what it looks like. So be careful that you don't obviously do that because the path is right there. I'm pressing Control Y so you can see the path's existence on the image. Obviously, you're not going to do stuff like that, but just so you understand the communication between Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop, the path, once it's made a clipping path, it's saved, it's embedded in the Photoshop format, you can transfer it whichever way you feel necessary. All right, let's finish our advertising that we're creating now in the Photoshop file. So I'm going to go back to Photoshop for a second. We started this design. Here we have a path. So what we want to do is, how do you convert the path into a selection? I want to cut the selection and paste it into my Photoshop file. So one way to do it is this way. You ready? Once you make the path existing, as I have it here, you click on the side menu, the hamburger menu, and you basically make a selection. You can also fill the path, stroke the path, but we want to make a selection of what the path holds. Like I said earlier, the conventional Photoshop selection methods are just not enough sometimes. So once we make a selection, it's going to ask us if we want to apply a feather. Feather is like softening the edges. Anti-alias will do a good job of that by itself. You don't have to necessarily add a value like 10 or 20. If you do, it'll add like a very, very feathered, like a soft edge look. So if you're doing things like on purpose, maybe that'll work. In this case, we want to get it nice and sharp and clean with a slightly smooth anti-aliased edge. So fonts even have natural anti-aliasing on them to look nice and smooth. Otherwise, it's too jaggedy. If I turn this off, it's going to be way too jaggedy. So leave it on. Keep this at 0. Basically, the default is good as it is. Hit the OK button. And there's the selection. See? I'm just pressing Q to show you. The selection is, again, no better than, I mean, no other tool I think can do it better than us justifying what's part of the streetcar, what isn't. When it comes to similarity of colors and shades and backgrounds, at the end of the day, you decide what works, what doesn't work. Let's hit copy, Command C, go back to our design here and press Command V. Then this becomes our, just a layer without the clipping path or anything like that. So we're going to leave it here, okay? And now we're going to go ahead and grab another example on how to do this in Photoshop, but instead of opening it separately, making the path and making the point I was trying to make with saving it for other applications, this time let's just focus on Photoshop. I'm going to close this and don't save it because I already did. This time I'll just place the image directly in here. So I'm going to go File, Place Embedded. I'm going to go after this newer looking streetcar here, the more modern look. I'm going to resize it smaller. And we're going to just kind of tell a story from before, the future, and the past, whatever, whichever way you want to spin it, left to right, from now, from then until now, okay, or from then till now, how the story progressed with TTC. So basically, this has to be also clipped. And again, look at the complexity of the background. It's very difficult for us to, cut this thing out using traditional selection methods. Okay, you're not gonna do this with the lasso or any other tools. So the best way to do it is with the pen tool. You simply click on the pen tool again, okay, and you start tracing the edges of your shape. In this case, the streetcar. So I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to always never start in the middle of a curve. It's going to give you that rough edge like I did with the letter S. Notice I had a few bumps. I did start at the corner, but it'd be really bad if I started in the middle of a curve because then the way it closes after, it's kind of unpredictable. So I'm going to start at the corner here like that. I just click and drag the mouse. Okay, I like the way, always go in the direction that the curve is going to. So I'm going to keep going this way like that. And this is a little too long going forward. So I'm just going to shorten it holding Option and just kind of anchor it down this way a little bit. And I'm going to go all the way down here. And I can use up and down with the selection keys, left and right. All right, so just keep clicking here, all the way down this way. Click and drag to get that nice curve. Click and drag, click and drag. I'm going to go all the way over here and there and there. And perhaps I'll go, again, Option click is to cut. Again, the main difference is Option key is the big difference between using this tool in Photoshop and Illustrator. And I really wanted to demonstrate that. Not if I just said it, people don't understand. So I really had to kind of go and demonstrate both programs and get you acquainted better with the pen tool. Because I always see a few people struggle with this tool. And some people are good at it. You just naturally pick it up, and some of you maybe just need a little more practice, a little more time to get used to it. So just like myself, practice is perfect. So the more you use it, the better you get at it. Okay. So again, this is the curve that I don't want. So I'm just going to Option click here. It's a straight cut edge all the way up here. Click and drag. Option click again. So straight cut. Go over here is like that. Option drag. Click. Option cut. You see that? This is a nice finisher here. Just by me doing this, and I'm going to just move it in a bit. Okay. And if you have to fix the path at all here, okay, you can always use the direction tool, the white arrow tool. You can definitely go up here and fix your path this way. I always recommend you doing it in here and not, I don't know, I think my path shifted here by accident. Don't do this in InDesign. InDesign's, I'll be honest with you, I'm not impressed with how InDesign handles the pen tool. It's like my third favorite, not at all. I would prefer Illustrator would be my number one use of the pen tool. Photoshop might be my second. InDesign would be probably the fifth. So don't do this in InDesign rather than do it in Photoshop, okay, or Illustrator in this case.
That was the thing I was asking, like how to edit the path in Photoshop.
Oh,
So
yeah. So
it is
basically,
with this tool because I couldn't with the pen tool. I was trying with the pen tool.
that's
So it's
yeah. You don't want
with
it
this
exactly.
arrow.
Use the direct, just like Illustrator, the direct selection tool, right?
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah. So that's pretty much how you want to edit this. And yeah, so do it all here. So now we have the same document, same image placed on top of this design. What happens is if you go to paths, there's the work path indicating that we didn't do a path. We're going to double click. I mean, you don't even have to, if you're not exporting this into InDesign, you don't have to do save the path, make it a clipping path. You don't have to do the song and dance. Okay. It's all good basically. Okay. You can just go to the paths here. I can go fill the path. I missed one little step here. I might have to make it. Oh, here we go. I can use these options here if I want. So these are your shortcuts to fill the paths. Like I was trying to do it this way too. If you do these options here, okay, it'll actually go ahead and fill these paths with the foreground color. I think it's not working for some reason. Must be rasterized. No, I'll do that. Give me 1 second here, guys. Okay. Okay, let me save the path. I'm just going to go path 1. It's a selection. I mean, I can use the selection tool as well. I got caught up into showing you how clipping paths work. It's not letting me make it a clipping mask. I mean, I can make it from here. Just see if I can do create clipping mask, right? That way. You can also make it if I drew this as an object, if I didn't do the path, you know how I showed you. I just don't want to confuse you guys, so just listen up here. If this was a shape, okay, I just wanted to show you the difference. The path is treated differently than a shape. If I did a shape, this would have worked just like that if I just did the clipping math. But because it's the actual path, the intention is to export it as a path, keeping the path as a clipping path for other programs and stuff. In this case, what I'm going to do is basically make it a second here. I'm going to duplicate the layer here. So I have 2 layers. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate. I should have had the path on a separate layer because I did the path, not the shape. I'm just going to duplicate it. And then you're going to go create clipping mask. Okay, so it's going to do that. Whoops. What's going on here? Missing a step. Well, I deleted my path now. Okay, you know what? Let me just do this really quickly here. So here's a streetcar. I just want to show you this in a very simple way. So instead of the path now, the difference is shape versus path. If you do a shape, right, you have a shape in front of the actual, on top of the image, which is a streetcar. Then you want to just do the option click. Sorry. Okay, so it clips the shape out from the streetcar with the clipping path. So what I'm going to ask you to do is basically convert. You should be able to convert the path into a shape, but if not, I'm just going to do the shape separately to not confuse you any further. I do apologize for this little blip here. Sometimes these paths get finicky. So let's just kind of back this up a moment. This is the streetcar. I'm going to use a shape, not a path. I'm going to use the shape layer. This is, again, if you choose the wrong one, it's going to really prevent you to do one or the other. So let's just I'm going to do the shape this time very quickly. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Just going to do this part here. Option drag. And the shape might be a little trickier because it's going to prevent you to see what you're doing. So I'm just going to do it very quickly here. All the way across. Option drag. You can always lower the opacity if you can't really see it. You can always lower the opacity of the shape layer so you can kind of see where it's getting at. To edit other points, you can hold Command or Control. You can move the anchor points that way. Remember, Option click is how we do this, right? And once you connect the path, the difference here, what I was trying to point out is this is a shape because we didn't draw a path, we drew a shape this time. So just remember, a path is good for exporting, like I mentioned earlier, for InDesign Illustrator, right? If you want to do a direct or even converting selections, as we did with this other streetcar, I made a selection, copy and paste. If you want to do a clipping mask in Photoshop, you need to create a shape. And this is basically what I was struggling with earlier. I was trying to convert the path into a shape. It wasn't letting me. So I just drew a shape altogether. If it's easier, make a shape, not a path. Okay. Let's make this 100%. Doesn't matter about the opacity. And basically, you want to clip the shape from the image underneath. Okay. And this is how clipping masks work. A lot of professional magazines I used to work with and some of the other more advanced Photoshop files, a lot of designers did this to make a clipping mask out of the object. I don't know why, but this was a popular thing that was done. It still is. So the way this is done is you move the shape behind. So the shape is here, the image is there. In Illustrator, it's the other way around. You have the shape in front of the image and you make a clipping mask. Here you make the image is on top of the shape and you right click and you make that the clipping mask, right? Like that. And that clips directly to the path or the shape underneath it. Okay. Let me release it to show you one more time. Another way is if you hold Option or Alt and you click between the clipping mask or the shape and the streetcar to do that same little technique. Okay, so this is how you want to create your clipping masks in Photoshop. So it's a little reverted, a little tricky when it comes to incorporating the transparency of the image with the shape. Just remember it's underneath, images on top, and you option click or you right click and you create a clipping mask to do just that. After you do that, you can then select the two together. You can even rasterize it or convert it into a smart object, and then there's your final product. I will leave it alone because I want to see you do this. So when I open your file from the exercise, I want to see this to show me that you demonstrate that you know how to execute this properly. And then you can literally go ahead and be careful not to do this or this, right? So you want to select both of them and move them together as a whole, right? And you can actually do that. Over here like that. Perhaps I'll move this layer 1 top of the more modern design. Maybe I'll scale it upwards a little bit. Maybe a little fade from one end to the other. I'm going to go add a layer mask, reveal all. So I'm adding a second layer mask here with the gradient tool, mixing black and white, which is transparent and normal like that, right? So I'm kind of blending them together like this. Control either or. Okay, so that would be maybe the effect we're trying to create here, like a ghost image of one blending into the other, past, future, or present. You can keep the background nice and clean. We'll bring in the logo right now at the top. We're going to go File, Place, Embedded. There's the TTC logo. Perhaps maybe I'll bring the old one here. And this will be our part of our advertising here, right? Bring the other layers a little lower. How do I center this perfect? I'm going to press Command A, make a selection, and then I have these visible at the top. I can go ahead and align my objects in the middle, right? Then you save it as a Photoshop file. Only Photoshop can retain this information. This is now getting really complex. We have a shape that we created with the pen tool, which we turn into a clipping mask, and then we have a layer mask, and then we have some other stuff that we did with the layers. We're going to save it as a Photoshop document. This TTC advert on my computer. I'm going to save this in there. It's a Photoshop document. So this will be saved in there. And this is what I want you to show me that you can do. Okay. But you don't have to do the streetcar if you want to do your own thing. Just do a clipping mask and you can hand this in for next week. Okay. So I'll give you some time after I do the lesson today. You can even do it today if you like. Okay. I just didn't want to give you that much pressure. Some of you are not good at this pen tool stuff. I want you to practice more and do a good job on this little assignment to hand it in for next week. Okay, so we do have some time, but we don't want to save it to last minute as well. Right, so once you save it as that, you're good to go. This is what the Photoshop file looks like. All right. I don't know if you try to open Photoshop files into Illustrator, but if you do try to, it'll ask you a few things. Do you want to convert layers into objects, or do you want to flatten the layers to a single image? If you do this, it's like a flat image, obviously. But if you do that one, and you have all this complexity in your design, a very interesting thing happens. Illustrator is able to recognize your design, and you can actually edit your designs further, right? If you go to the layers panel, you see how communicative they both are. You have the logo on a separate layer. You have this image here, and you have shape one with the streetcar. So if you open this up, you can see the actual clipping mask, okay, of the actual streetcar underneath it. So it's a really interesting way how Illustrator is able to communicate with you, okay? And of course, to move that all together, you might have to grab the whole thing and do that. Whoops. Right. This one's locked. Right. Okay. There's your background image. Not that you might want to do this in here, but you might want to bring in maybe one or two images that are kind of cleaned up in Photoshop into Illustrator, and you can do the same. And converting this into an ad would be something you might want to do for prints with the bleed marks and crop marks that Photoshop can't do. This is why you might want to do this in Illustrator instead of Photoshop as well. All right, so clipping mask, clipping paths. Okay, that's what it's Photoshop's new thing there that I wanted to show you. I think we covered all the important parts of the lesson here. So do you have any questions? Close my applications down here. Any questions? Going once, going twice? Okay, if you don't have any questions, I'm gonna wrap it up right now and give you time to perhaps maybe you can do this today and hand it in. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can ask me as well. I'll be happy to answer them. I'll review some parts I went over. The only hiccup I had
Just
was it near the end. Go ahead, Madsen.
just for the, I mean, the thing that we are gonna submit, is it the same thing that you just did?
Yeah, I
Exactly.
mean, you can use the same thing, but do you want me to show you what other students did last semester quickly?
Yeah, maybe to have some ideas, because I was
Yeah,
confused about it, like if we
you're
can
right.
go in
So,
around with all the images or like just whatever you did.
good question. So let me show you what my students did last semester because I had a big section, as you know. A lot of them did the TTC because technically I did ask you to do the TTC, right? But I don't want to make these things boring for you. So I did say you can use the TTC, okay, or create your very own. You can grab a picture of a balloon or airplane. You can do like a Air Canada commercial or something, with different objects. You can do buildings, architecture. You can do the, different uh, towers and building structures around the world, right? Skyscrapers, that was the word I was looking for, and do a different theme altogether. Okay, just to show you, 'cause this is like an exercise assignment. I don't want you to put that much time into it, but at the same time, I want you to be able to exercise your creativity. So I'm going to show you some last semester stuff here. Fall semester here. I saved some other ones, so it's not just the TTC. So here's what other people did. Okay. So this person did the lettering, and they went really a little extra with they did additional clipping paths and stuff to do this effect, shaping the future of transportation. Here's another person. They did this one here. They used this as a clipping mask for the images. They did a Instagram post about mobile covers. One person did this. This didn't make sense, but if I opened it, it worked. One person did that one. It was just different. It had the CN Tower, Toronto, it's a little city. So it was a different design. And one person did that. One person did this one. Okay, they put the picture of the map of the subway, then they did the actual hexagons. But I wanted them to do the streetcar trace. So I think that was my comment on this one. It was nice, but where's this trace? I want to make sure you know how to trace something more advanced. So maybe at least have one incorporated advanced path. You know what I mean? Okay, here's another one here, more like a design thing. There's another one here. These are all paths, I guess they made, different objects. There's another one here. Some people got their own streetcars from the website. And this was another one that they did for this assignment. So you can do something different. just to show you how this one was done. So there's the ice cream. There's the clipping mask right here, see? So option click, see that? That's the clipping mask of the ice cream sundae that was done. I think the strawberry was also clipped. There's another strawberry here. There's a lot of strawberries that are clipped here, right? You can see here, there's a lot of layers into this design. Like I said, you don't have to go all out here, but if you want to exercise your creativity and do something different, you can. So there's a strawberry I was trying to show you with the clipping mask too. So this person clipped the strawberries and they clipped the ice cream sundae. So if you want to do something different, by all means. All right. So maybe that was a little, I like the fact that I showed you some examples of the previous students. And that some person did this. That's when Taylor Swift came. I think in Toronto was a big deal. And she made a Taylor Swift ad or something like that, right? There you go. This was also a clipping mask of Taylor Swift. And this was a JPEG ad delivery for the design. Okay, so again, that's what I'm giving you a week, just so you can have some creativity, have some fun with this. And honestly, you can do the TTC. You don't have to do anything else. But if you feel like you want to do a different theme, go right ahead. You can do a different theme as well. All right, so next week we're gonna do like a review. I'm even gonna start the web segment. I want to move a little forward so we don't, this way we're ahead of schedule, and then we'll have, because you know what's gonna happen near the end. We do have some holidays coming up. I don't know which day they land. We want to be ahead of our schedule, so we're gonna keep going forward. We're gonna start the web segment next week also. Okay, so we're gonna start the websites. I know you've been doing website design in Felicia's class, coding websites. So now we're going to do interface designs in Photoshop. And that'll be a perfect transition for us in the next semester as we do UX, UI design with me in that class that you're going to have me for the summer. Okay. All right. So I think that wraps it up. Any other questions? I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Any questions, anyone? Okay, so that wraps up the recording. Thank you for watching. Hope you had fun today. It was quite a technique with this pen tool, so keep practicing if you're not comfortable with it, and have some fun, and let's get this assignment done for next week. Okay, bye for now, and see you in the next video.
Thank you.